Hey guys, what's up? My name is Anthony, and welcome to another edition of BNA Sports Talk. And today we're doing a film analysis on Jared Goff. Now, I'm not going to highlight specific plays, but basically, I'm going to have some plays in the background, kind of, describing what I saw about Jared Goff. And maybe if I remember some plays or whatever, I want to mention some specific plays. I'll talk about Jared Goff. So, when I was doing this process, initially, I was thinking, Jared Goff. He's not worth the contract. The Rams had to do it again. They'd probably not sign Jared Goff. Because he's it's a big cap hit, and they felt kind of tied to get Jared Goff. Who else are you gonna get? The rumors about Russell Wilson potentially being up for a trade or something last year. There were rumors, obviously about Dak Prescott, about a bunch of things. And the Rams were on a spending spree, and they decided to maintain Jared Goff. Now again, I think. Sean McVay likes Jared Goff. I don't think he hates Jared Goff whatsoever. I didn't see any reports saying, Sean McVay doesn't trust Jared Goff. But yeah, and we saw that last year. He had the most, the most throws out of any single person, most attempts out of any single quarterback in the league. And now there's injuries, there's a bunch of things that happen to other quarterbacks. Jared Goff stayed healthy, and he has been healthy throughout his entire career. But there's something to be said about him being there and executing the plays and different things like that. But what has he done in big games? Now, let's take a look at, last year against the Steelers. They lost that game, and the Steelers weren't a great team. He lost mano-a-mano versus a Mason Rudolph, and now it's a big concern. If you take a look at the playoffs, even the previous years, he was not impressive whatsoever in those games. So that means that, either Sean McVay is not a good coach, which I don't think that's the case, or that means Jared Goff isn't good in high-pressure situations. And, you could say he made the Super Bowl. You could say a bunch of things like that. But if you take a look at the stats in the playoff games and all these big games that he's played, it hasn't been really impressive. And that's because, the offensive line is awful. The guy Havenstein, he's just clueless. He doesn't get his base real low, gets beaten on the outside, even by decent pass rushers. Forget about, your not Aaron Donalds, they're on the same team, but, forget about your Jadeveon Clowneys. He was just awful. But if you take a look at it, he took a little bit of a step back last year. With 63% completions, he had a little bit fewer yards, even with higher attempts. The touchdowns went down. Interceptions went down as well. The interceptions, as far as the rest of the league went down, he ranks about the same in the league. Plus 4 interceptions, but that's not really that much more crazy. His decision-making is good. I like his decision-making, but sometimes when he gets rattled, he makes an errant throw, and it's just like, what are you doing? Why'd you just get rid of the ball like that? Now, every quarterback kind of does that, but you have your Aaron Rodgers, your experienced guys, that just learn how to throw the ball away. And Jared Goff sometimes needs to learn how to, live for another play. What I like about him, executing on, 2-minute drives, he's amazing. He knows how to execute those plays, like those out routes. He can throw it on a dime very accurately. I worry about his intermediate throws. Obviously, I couldn't hit those, and I'm not saying that he can't hit it, very consistently, but he's about average with those intermediate throws, but his deep ball is so good. He has a top 5 deep ball in this league. It's one of his underrated attributes. And yeah, so, obviously the first year of his career, he actually had a negative added value. A negative added value is 0-7, 55% completion. He was supposed to be awful. Now, he was under Jeff Fisher, but it's a little bit of a concern when you're a Jared Goff and it's your first year and you do that bad. I don't even think he was playing in the first couple of games, but the next 2 years he rebounded, had a higher completion percentage, had a higher yards per attempt, and this year he took a step back, and I can contribute that to a couple things, like I mentioned before. One, the offensive line. Andrew Whitworth is serviceable, but a left tackle, he shouldn't be your number one, and they didn't do anything, I repeat, anything, to replace him. I like the guy Jared Allen as a center. I think he's the center for your future. And you also, your left guard, I forgot his name, number 63, he's also serviceable as well, but your offensive line is getting worse. It's not getting better. You didn't do anything to address that. So that's the first point. I would say Jared Goff needs to get a better offensive line, which is not really in his control because he needs everything to be right. He's the example of everything needing to be right for him to succeed. Your Carson Wentz's of the world, they can deal a little bit without, even though I think Carson Wentz is a little bit overrated in that aspect. But Jared Goff needs his wide receivers. Take a look at his wide receiver stats. His wide receivers had a higher drop percentage this year, but overall, they were generally making plays. And take a look at who they added. Van Jefferson, a guy who went to the University of Florida, who I've seen firsthand, is a playmaker. You got rid of the guy who went to, was it Woods or Cup, who went to the, I think was it Woods? No, it was Cook, Brandon Cook, sorry, who went to the Texans. That's going to be a hit for you. But honestly, Todd Gurley was not that bad last year. And you take a look at his the other running back, Malcolm Brown. They had the same yards per attempt last year as the year before. So, it was all based on the offensive line creating consistent plays. They were not able to run the ball and help move the chain for Jared Goff. A lot of times, the wide receiver would drop the ball, and, Jared Goff can't really make up for that because he's not the greatest runner of the football. That's my third point. He's not a great runner of the football whatsoever. He can move in the pocket. He has decent mobility. He has average athleticism, but they're not doing anything like that. Sean McVay would rather do bootlegs and plays that, deceive the defense, mix, match, move guys. And, Van Jefferson is a great addition to this offense. I just worry about this offensive line. Jared Goff is, he gets a little bit rattled. I think that's kind of hard to improve with experience, once you start getting hit, once you start, seeing ghosts in that sort of way, I worry about Jared Goff. I'd rank him somewhere 15, 16. He's serviceable. He can win. I don't think he can win MVP. I think he can win a Super Bowl. We've seen him in the Super Bowl, but a lot of things have to go right with your Super Bowl run. We've seen it with Eli. I think Jared Goff is just Eli Manning. I really do. Successful in that offense. He is. I think his mindset is a little. I think it's a common thing. I think it's a little bit below average IQ. Sometimes he obviously misses people downfield, but that happens to everybody. And yeah, I don't think he's worth $34 million, but that's what the Rams have to do, and that's what they're paying him. He needs a support cast. And honestly, if I were the Los Angeles Rams right now, I would just kind of, try to find another quarterback to give him a challenge. They haven't really done that, to a quarterback to bring in behind him. They have Blake Bortles, I believe, on the roster right now, if I'm not mistaken. But you need to bring in another quarterback to be like, okay, Jared Goff, we know you're the leader here, but we have a guy that's going to challenge you, and a guy that's going to work every single day to try to be better than you. But I think Jared Goff is decent. He's not awful. And people who say he's awful, a lot of people jumped off the train, but I don't think that's so. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know you guys think. How good is Jared Goff? And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye, guys.